How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. Today I want to talk to you about why the market is down, because it is down pretty significantly. There are a variety of reasons for that. I also want to cover some of the top news, some good news, some bad news, and why I'm doing what I'm doing. So if you don't mind hitting the like button and subscribe button, I really do appreciate that. Turn on that bell notification so you know right when I post a video, because a lot of the time this is time-sensitive content. So let's get into it. The market's down slightly here today in crypto, but when you compare it to the overall market, it actually doesn't look too bad. The Nasdaq's down 2.5% today. S&P is down over 2%. The Dow is down almost 2%. Bitcoin down less than 1%. Maybe part of that is because we've fallen more over the last few days anyway, so now the stock market's pretty much just catching up. Now, even though crypto's not down too much right now, you can still see we're in a pretty bad spot. We fell drastically below the 200-week moving average, which is never a good sign. We really want to keep that as support, but this is the first time in history that we've been able to go above it, close above it several weeks in a row, and then fall right back below it. We still are making higher lows and higher highs, so as long as we don't fall down to about that $20,000 mark, I think we're okay. But again, that could be kind of bearish if we do fall below that. Now, people are going to tell you all different things after that point, whether we fall down to 12,000 or 5,000 or 18,000. There are all different lines of theory there, but a lot of it will depend on the broader market, in my opinion. We're seeing some pretty worrying signs, and I'll have a silver lining here at the end, but we have another day of huge explosions in the cost of natural gas. The Dutch natural gas went up to 295 per megawatt hour. That's about $500 per barrel of oil equivalent, and then 800 for France, and then 700 for Germany. So everything's getting more expensive in Europe, and you can see that with some of their CPI readings. There's a lot of inflation there, and it's just getting worse because of oil and energy there. The DXY is also getting stronger. So as the dollar gets much stronger, the fact is it makes stocks and risk on assets less valuable, and it causes them to fall down in price. This is happening at the same time the price of the 10-year treasury is increasing. So we're up to 3.03. Whenever this happens, we typically see a sell-off really when we bottom June. I believe it was this exact date, and that was the top of the 10-year. So when that goes up, more investors flee to something that's very stable like the 10-year treasury because there's no risk. So as that goes up, or very little risk, I should say, as that goes up, of course you have to ship more money in there if you want some allocation towards low risk. We also have China. I'm sure you've seen these. A lot of people are making videos about China on YouTube and how they have an economic collapse coming. They're one of the two major superpowers in the world with the US. And a lot of people are worried about their real estate market. A lot of people are worried about their economic crisis. They just actually surprised the world and actually cut rates because of the situation that their economy is in. So the fact is they're in a pretty tough spot. And a lot of people are worried about the fallout from China. And I won't go into all of that because there are tons of videos on it here on YouTube, but the fact is that is something that people are worried about. Also, people are wondering if we really are going to start lowering rates or if we price that in too early. A lot of the Fed officials now are saying we'll keep raising rates as long as necessary to make sure the inflation is curbed. Now, a lot of these types of Fed officials just say this in part to try to calm down the market and to try to reduce inflation just by talking about it. But the fact is they still could continue raising rates, and we're not sure exactly where we're going to start inflecting down, when the Fed's going to be a little bit more dovish. You could already see that in the last meeting, but I think they're trying to calm the market because it took off so quickly after this. Now, to be fair, we did see inflation come down. If we see it come down another month, I think the market will probably turn more risk on again. I think that's going to be really important to watch, because if we come down again, the investors are just going to assume that we're not going to have to raise as much, and then it'll be good for risk markets. And even if we do make a big rate increase at the next meeting, the fact is if inflation's coming down substantially, the fact is that eventually we won't have to raise rates as much. So even if we raise pretty drastically in September, as long as inflation's coming down, I think that will be really good for risk markets. We got some news today about Ford cutting 3,000 jobs globally. Now, this is coming at the same time that Elon Musk actually just announced something really bullish. So on one end, Ford that is cutting jobs, just to be careful, and to be fair, like a lot of companies are doing this, but Elon Musk just announced FSD beta 1069.2, and he's saying that we're going to have a 15% or 15,000 FSD price, and he's going to do this soon. So this is good for Tesla stockholders for a couple different reasons. First of all, this will get a lot of people, I think, to sign up for subscriptions in the next couple weeks. That will look really good on their next quarter earnings. That just goes down to their bottom line, essentially, almost all of it. And the fact is that they're also going to make a significant amount more each year now. So this $3,000 based on Tesla's take rate will give them, from what I could tell, with 1.5 million cars sold based on the same take rate, this will give them about 300 million more in net income. So that's really bullish. I think it's not the biggest thing that's happened to Tesla recently. The fact is they did announce the Inflation Reduction Act recently, and that's going to help Tesla, I think, more than anything else. That actually makes me super, super bullish on Tesla. I already was, but that makes me even more bullish because they already have so much demand. The fact is that they are going to have so much demand, and they're going to have this tax credit now. So I think they're just going to have to raise prices, honestly, or keep prices the same instead of lowering them like they might have been thinking about once supply chains get calmed down. The fact is this is really going to help them because, again, they have so much demand right now. It's not like they're having a demand problem. They're having a supplying problem. They have to keep on ramping up. So if we just extrapolate how much they can make if they just raise their prices by that amount or by even half that amount, that's going to be very substantial. I mean, we're talking about billions upon billions upon billions, and then down the line, tens of billions of dollars going to their net income if they just raise their rates a bit because of this tax credit. And the fact is, it's supposed to go for 10 years. So with all that in mind, we do have a lot of fear on the horizon, right? There's a lot of fear. There is some bad news in crypto right now, too, some things you have to be careful of, but we'll get to the silver lining here in a second. The BendDAO contract now only has 15 ETH to pay lenders. So I talked about this last week at some point. BendDAO is basically a lending protocol for NFTs where you can put up your NFT and then you can take collateral against it, or you can take Ethereum out. Now, on the other side, they have people that can deposit Ethereum, and they're able to get up to about 93.96% right now. As the rate increases, holders are disincentivized, though, to pay back their loans. As a result, many have defaulted and their NFTs have gone up for liquidation, creating a bad debt scenario. Now, this happened very quickly. They had 18,000 wrapped ETH just a few days ago. Now they just have 0.75, and they had another deposit go in for 500. So the fact is, it's having a bank run, and this is also bad for holders of these NFTs because of the fact that a lot of these will be sold on the marketplace. They're going to have a lot of liquidity all of a sudden, and probably not that many buyers because so many people will be defaulting on these most likely over the coming days and weeks. So just be on the lookout for that. It's pretty interesting what's happening. Not good for the holders, not good for the people that have deposited, but obviously they should have known the risks of putting up some of their Ethereum for that kind of interest rate. And then we do have the crypto assets fund flows report this week. We saw money flow out. We had about 8.7 million flow out of crypto, with 15.3 coming out of Bitcoin, a little bit going into Ethereum and multi-asset, a little bit going into Binance and short Bitcoin, and then some coming out of Solana. So not too much action here, but you can see that is the second consecutive week of outflows for crypto. So why am I not worried with all this different bad news coming out and so many bad numbers? Why am I not selling everything? Well, I think it's important to remember that the narrative always follows the price in markets. This is a good article, but it's true, right? Whenever the market's pumping, there's always good news. And whenever the market's falling, there's always bad news. The fact is, we could change tomorrow. If the market starts pumping tomorrow, we're not going to be thinking about all this bad news. We're going to be thinking about all the good news. And there is good news, right? First of all, the Fed is going to have to pivot. They can't continue to raise rates forever at this rate. And honestly, they're going to have to probably start lowering them to increase economic activity. And just because they're going to have their debt become much more expensive as they continue to raise rates. Also, inflation is coming down. Let's not forget that. Another thing is, some companies like Tesla can afford to have high inflation. The fact is, they just raised the price of their products. A lot of these companies too will be fine. Like, there's short-term headwinds, but are we going to be worried about these same scenarios or these same problems years down the line? For some of these companies, probably not. So a lot of companies will be able to get through this and they'll be fine. So if you can pick them up at half the price that they're truly valued without all this hanging over their head, the fact is that that's probably a good buy for the long term. And then we have good news like BlackRock and Google and Morgan Stanley investing billions into blockchain and crypto. Even BlackRock starting to offer this to their institutional clients. That's good news that will come up if the price starts pumping up. The fact is, it doesn't take too many buyers to start pumping up the crypto market at this point. And I'm not taking a bet on the short term. That's what I've been saying for months and months and months. I'm just dollar cost averaging. That's what I've done all year. And to be honest, I'm pretty much even, especially on my stock holdings. The fact is, I'm pretty much even because I was averaging in when we were at the bottom of the market. And now I'm averaging in now. And while the market can fall further, the fact is we still have good news that could come out. We still have good news that is coming out. We do have some things that are holding over our head. But as soon as the market turns around, believe me, people won't be worried. People will be greedy. Remember just a week or two ago when people were getting greedy again. That's why I try not to get too emotional while investing, because the fact is it can change so quickly. People that are greedy will be fearful in a few weeks and vice versa. So let me know your thoughts on this underneath the video. That was a lot of news. Hopefully you liked it. Let me know in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.